Welcome back to the Phoenix College Athletic Podcast. I'm Coach Cameron. I'll be your host for episode 24 as we bring on Shay Jones, who is our new interim women's basketball coach. Wait, what? What happened to KK? Well, Christine Kincaid is now our new interim athletic director. Hey, what happened to Jonathan Berzins? I don't know. You can learn it all on this podcast as we bring on Coach Shay Jones. Welcome to the podcast. Now we're with Shay Jones, who is the interim head coach for the women's basketball. I almost said volleyball because we had a lot of changes going on. Obviously, I know you coach basketball, Shay. So Shay has been with us for a long time. I think the last 7 years, you've been both with the men's and the women's program coaching basketball. Can you tell our listeners what exactly happened most recently that put you in the position as interim women's basketball coach?
I had the pleasure of getting the opportunity to work side by side with Christy Kincaid, our longtime head women's basketball coach. She asked me to come in and do some certain things, and I was a little apprehensive at first, but it was all for the best. You know, Lord works in mysterious ways. And now with the changes that we have with our athletic department, with KK being an interim athletic director, that kind of moved me into the position as interim head coach. So it's a challenge that we're both looking forward to, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's unfortunate we lost Jonathan Berzins as he is heading with his family to Colorado, and we wish him the best of luck. And we're also excited for KK, which I think she'll do an amazing job. And
Yes.
It's nice to have you within Phoenix College. Being there full time already was a huge help to be able to get you in this capacity. So we didn't really skip a beat, and you're already from that program. So that's big for us that the transition was smooth and we made everything happen. So I'm excited that nothing major changed. You know, we have consistency. It's not going to really upset, you know, the young women in our program. I lost you for a second. There you are. I'm excited for you. But let's talk about you a little bit. Where'd you come from, and how did you end up getting into coaching basketball?
Anybody who knows me knows I'm a big Buckeye. You know, I was originally born in Columbus, Ohio. Was born into the Buckeye family. My Uncle Dan played for Woody. My grandfather coached at Ohio State back in the 40s. My grandmother was a swimmer there. My mother went to classes at Ohio State when she was pregnant with me. So I was born a Buckeye. But not so fast. After the blizzard of, I think it was 77, 78, we waited for that snow to clear. And my mom was on a plane, and I ended up growing up in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas raised me, but I was born in Ohio. I went to Las Vegas High School. I was a mediocre athlete. I could do a little bit of everything, but nothing great. But my passion, I took some advice from people. I came out of high school, played some semi-pro baseball. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. My passion was always basketball, though. Growing up in the backdrop of Coach Tarkanian's programs, I idolized him and what he did. Just helping young, disenfranchised people. I had a chance encounter when I was a young guy with Reggie Theus, who ended up being a great NBA player. And he really took time with me and spent a little bit of time just interacting with me and showing me just how you help young people. It wasn't so much later that I realized that he was a guy that led us to a Final Four, ended up playing with the Chicago Bulls. And it really just kind of paved the way for me as what I wanted to do with young people. So when I unfortunately lost a friend the day after Christmas in the mid-'90s, it just really kind of said to me, you know what, I'm going to play for him. So I went back to college to play basketball. And things just really snowballed. My work ethic kicked in, and I was able to become an athlete that I always envisioned, but never really quite was in high school. And I went from being an average guy to being not only the top player in my league, but one of the better players in the country, and got invited to some pro camps. Next thing I knew, I was on a plane going to play professionally in Greece. They were retiring my jersey in college, and I was a legitimate player. So with that, I kind of parlayed that into some coaching. Coached a little bit everywhere. Coached in Ohio, Michigan. Our team in Ohio was ranked #1 in the nation. We sent about 5, 6 guys to professional teams all over the world. From there, I came back out to the West Coast, spent some time in Wyoming, coached in the ABA. And then I, fortunately, through some childhood relationships, I ended up in Northern Arizona University with Jack Murphy, who's now the associate head coach at U of A. Spent a season there and came down to Phoenix, which was so remarkably like Las Vegas as far as the communities were concerned that I came down here and I worked side by side with Matt Gordon with our men's program. And as you know, we had tremendous success there. And next thing I know, I'm here. I'm working side by side with KK, and the rest is history, I guess they say.
Yeah, it's men's basketball has always done well. The women's basketball program has it's been tough to grow. I mean, for decades, it's struggled.
Yes.
Other than when KK took them to nationals, had that amazing run. It's a program that I'm excited about growing because it's gotten a lot better recently, and I'm hopeful that you're going to take it to that next step. But as far as your commitment to Phoenix College, where I really got to know you is through Men in Empowerment. So,
yes,
what got you involved with Men in Empowerment, and where do you see that program kind of growing, involving growth within Phoenix College and other campuses in Maricopa? What do you like best about Men Empowerment?
Well, the thing that intrigued me initially was 20 plus years of coaching. I've spent the majority of my life working with student athletes, which I love. But as they've transitioned into normal life, let's say, I began to realize that my impact was beyond athletics. And I was always trying to figure out a way to be able to have that similar type of impact with non-athletes. So men gave me an opportunity to do that. Dr. Thompson, mentioned it to me, and we really just, the conversation grew from there. And when I got an opportunity to have that same kind of interaction and that same connection and be able to reach out to young people in the same way that I was able to reach out to them as athletes, it was more than it is for them. Because as I said, you feel as though the relationship you have with student athletes, it's a relationship out of necessity. Whereas the relationship with men, it's a relationship that there's a need for, but it isn't a need. It isn't a relationship that's forced or forged. It's a relationship that grows. It's very, very organic. It gives me the opportunity to, as I said before, reach out to non-athletes and give them the same type of mentorship that I was able to give our athletes.
I love Men Empowerment. I've been a part of it on and off, and I wasn't really sold on it until recently when I sent some of our young student athletes on the men's soccer program who you took to South Mountain to do some networking, and it worked out well because from that one seminar or that one networking group you guys did at South Mountain, one of my students who was a dreamer and got a scholarship through networking with the Men Empowerment. And a scholarship, that's $8,000 a year to go to school because they can't get really any financial assistance. So and when that happened, I was like, I'm joining this group. And that's kind of how we really intimately got to know each other. It was through this program and through the many meetings with Dr. McIntosh, and it was awesome. And then COVID hit and shut us down. So I'm hopeful we'll get going again once COVID passes through and the vaccine gets out, and we can get back and help grow that program. I really like that program. But let's go back to basketball. So what's your expectation? So you'll be starting up in January, and
Yes.
what are you going to do differently, I guess, with all these new procedures we have to go through, and you know, depending on the data we're receiving from our athletic trainers in Maricopa, and hopefully we have a successful season. What are you going to do in your first, say, week of practice? Is that even processed yet in your head? I mean, what do you expect to get out of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a whirlwind. There's no doubt about it. And this is inevitably what we have to deal with. And you know, our job as coaches are to get our athletes out of their own way. Now, there's a lot of murky water between where they want to be, where we want them to be, and where we're at right now. So it's very important that, as not just for myself, but all of our coaches, understand what the protocols are, understand what we have to do in order for us to take the first step. Right now, it's, as you know, it's a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of different things. But once we get those things down, then we have to understand what the procedures are. And we need to know those procedures like we know the back of our hand. We need to know those procedures just like how we get on the road for a road trip, how we practice, how we do scouting reports. This is a part of it now. This is the way that we exist now. And we can either complain about it and throw it all by the wayside, or we can adapt to it. And I think that if the fact that we have a lot of returners is very good for us, because we know personalities. We don't have to spend time getting used to one another. We don't have to spend time with the decorum of our locker room, so to speak. We know who we are, what each other expects of one another. And from that point, I think in our first week, we're going to spend a lot of time really, really hammering home the simplest of things, so that we're really, really good at that, because I know that other teams are going to have to spend time getting to know each other, getting to understand what's expected of one another, how each other responds to one another. We're fortunate that we don't have to do that. We can look each other in the eye, tell each other what we're expecting of one another, and move forward. So I think that experience that we have as a program and as individuals is going to lend a little bit of credibility to what it is we say to one another. So I think we're going to be good in that sense.
So you have a political science degree, but you also have a master's degree in educational leadership from NAU. How are you going to use your educational background into what you do as a coach?
Well, you know, a mentor of mine, Al LaRock, who's a legendary high school coach in Las Vegas. His daughter's the head coach at UNLV now. He said something very simple to me one day. He actually had it on a camp T-shirt, and it's elevate your mind to elevate the game. And I believe the importance of education, the importance of leadership in our own situations, whether they be at home, in relationships, in the classroom, on the court, whatever that may be, whatever that looks like. Okay. So on a day-to-day basis, I have to exemplify that leadership. And doing the difficult things. You know, it's really easy to be the person that leads the cheer, but sometimes you're the person that has to lead the jeers, and people don't like that. That's the thing that I'm going to have to do. That's the thing that I think is the easiest way to show our young people how you have to do what's important. Because sometimes, you know, I heard this a long time ago, and I use this: you have to swallow the bad pill to get well. And I think that's kind of how I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to show our young people, our players, what we need to do on a day-to-day basis in order to get to where it is that we want to be. So that leadership component of it is something that I have to live by. It's not something that I can just hang on the wall and say, yeah, I did that. That's something I have to live by. Yeah,
that's interesting you bring that up, because as you know, I do another podcast, a personal podcast. And I'm actually working on a segment I do basically talking about coaches that don't do the things that they're telling their kids to do. And I think there's such a hypocritical thing to do as a coach. If you're going to be asking your kids to eat a certain way, sleep a certain way, and you're going to have to do those same things. And I was a coach not too long ago. I was 230 pounds, and I was a big guy.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. It's.
I never knew that.
I'll send you a picture. It's horrible. Yeah, I was embarrassingly huge, and I remember seeing a picture, and I'm like, I was just like so embarrassed, and I just reminded me of a coach I had as a kid, and he was just this huge coach, 300-400 pounds, and he just sat in a chair and just barked orders at us, and we just hated him. And I don't want to be that way, and I was heading towards that way, and I got out of it. But that's a thing that I like talking about. It's like, if we're going to be expecting our athletes to behave a certain way, to perform a certain way, we need to do the same thing and put in the same amount of effort that they have to. So I want our listeners to get to know you a little bit. So we're going to play a game of Would You Rather. And so I'm going to say basically pizza or burgers, and then which one would you rather? So we'll start with that one, pizza or burgers. Would you rather have pizza or you want burgers? Okay. All right. Sweet or sour?
Sweet.
Sweet. Okay. All right. Here's a tough one. Basketball or football?
Ooh, man. Now, are we talking playing or watching?
Let's say watching.
If we're saying watching, then it's football.
Okay.
I'll watch the Buckeyes. I'll watch the Buckeyes play anybody.
Yeah, you have a son that plays football too. So, if someone asks me soccer or volleyball, I'm saying volleyball. I rather watch volleyball. I rather play volleyball than soccer. It's just the sport I always loved. I just never had the height to actually excel at it, but I definitely loved it. All right, one more. All right. NAU, Ohio State.
Say one more time. You broke up.
NAU or Ohio State?
Ohio State.
Yeah, of course. That was an easy one. No, I was gonna do another one, but it's not appropriate for this podcast. But Shay, this is an interesting time, and I think you're the perfect fit for this transition during this time during COVID. And I wish you the best of luck. I know Phoenix College is excited about you, and it's nice to have someone we actually know and trust. And you're going to do a great job with these young ladies, and we wish you the best to the season, and have a great spring 2021 as you guys start January 4th, right? You guys are going January 4th?
January 20th. We're starting practice January 4th. Starting our first game will be January 20th. And actually we'll be playing our first home game against my hometown team, the College of Southern Nevada. So that's
all right. Well, we wish you the best of luck, and we'll have you back on this podcast when we can do it, like in person. It's hard with the, technical difficulties and all the, the Wi-Fi and all that stuff. In person would be so much better. But
yeah.
Shay, we're excited for you. We wish you the best of luck, and thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you do, man. I really do.
All right. Thanks, Shay.
It's the benchmark for what student-athlete success is all about here at Phoenix College. It's the Student-Athlete Scholastic Success Program. It's helped our more than 250 student-athletes get a better education and a better chance at a 2-year and 4-year degree. Find out how a little sass is making a big difference at PC.